All right, hello. So I am Trey Paterson, the writer and director of this film, The Vampiress. Decided I wanted to do a commentary for the film. Don't know if anyone's going to be listening, but I'm going to have some fun. And joining me on via Zoom is star of the movie, Gabriela Noble. You want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Gabriela, and I am really excited to visit this film again. It's been about 10 years since I made this film with Trey, and a lot of good memories. It'll be fun to rewatch.
Actually, the crazy thing, I'm going to try and get this posted, the commentary on YouTube by this Friday. This Friday will be October 30th, and that will actually be 12 years to the day since we started shooting.
Wow.
That is pretty crazy. So just for craps and giggles, we're going to start by watching the trailer. We'll turn the volume up.
Professor John Loomis?
I'll turn the volume down a little.
Did you know James
we can
Mitchell?
talk.
Yes.
So yeah, that music for people who are really eagle-eared and into musical theater is from Phantom of the Opera.
To mimic a vampire.
Yeah. As a lot of theater people do, I went through a bout of really just falling in love with that recording and that little snippet there. It's in Act 2 during the rehearsal, and she goes off and ends up singing Wishing You Were Somehow Here Again. Just sort of right in between those, this violin thing came in, and I just thought I wanted to use it in something, and I ended up using it, in this and the first vampire movie I did.
And this was the sequel, right, Trey?
This was a sequel, yeah. The first one was they do a guerrilla filmmaking competition. Now they call it the Guerrilla Filmmaking Challenge, because the guy who starts it wants to downplay the competitive nature, make it more about, everybody make a film. But the very first year they did that, in 2005, my best friend Craig and I made a film called The Vampire, and in that I played the vampire, and a friend of mine from high school, an actress named Chelsea, played the girl that we named Jill. But yeah, so several years later, that movie ended, I thought, pretty decisively with James, bringing down the vampire bitten Jill. She's, he gets killed. She starts to show fangs, and James grabs the stake and goes and brings the hammer down, and it cut to black just as the hammer came down, which I thought was just a great way to end the movie. And a friend of mine looked at that and said, "You left that open for a sequel." I'm like, How? And he said, "Well, you didn't actually show her die." At first I thought, that's ridiculous, that's stupid, and it just kept rattling around in my head, and I ended up writing this story that, it's still one of the longest shorts I've ever produced.
Yeah, what's the total running time for it?
Total runtime runs somewhere around 30 minutes.
Oh, gotcha. I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah, well, the posting on YouTube in 3 chapters, because at that time I could only post up to a 10-minute video, and so I had to chop it up. Let's go ahead and begin the movie proper. Here we go. And
the actress who played the Vampiress in the first film was unable to play the part. Did she move, or what happened with that?
She moved. Well, for people not aware of it, I live in St. George, Utah, and Chelsea moved to Cedar City, which is about 50 miles north. So it's roughly an hour drive, give or take, depending who's driving, I like to say. And she was going to college, and I kept begging her to come take this role again. When I first set out, I said, I'm only going to do this if I can get Chelsea back.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time the script was written and she was still saying, I just don't have time, And I was even offering to him, like, we can film most of your scenes. I'll come to you. I'll film in, with the exception of a couple things that had to be in St. George, we could go up to Cedar and shoot it. And it still just kept it turning into I don't have time. And by that point, I'd just fallen in love with the idea and the script so much. I'm like, maybe I can find someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. And
you did.
It worked
Yay.
out well. You are the first, and I think so far only actor I've cast in a movie that I did not know beforehand.
Wow.
We met at that audition.
That's very true. I remember seeing it posted on a bulletin board, and you were looking for a girl with long dark hair to play the vampires. And I was like, cool. I like vampires. I have long dark hair. And it worked out.
Yeah, I think it worked very well. I'm glad I've only been able to audition for my films a couple times, and this time, both times I was looking for an actress. Both times, only 2 people showed up. The difference is that on this one, I didn't invite specifically the 2 who came and auditioned. I didn't know either of them, and I was originally going to use both of you, but the other girl, and I don't remember her name, I was going to give her a different role, and she ended up moving away before we got far enough into filming to use her. I'm starting the movie now.
All right.
But yeah, that's this is something, White Tiger Entertainment. I have since had to retire that name.
Oh, I was just going to ask that if you're still using that.
I wish I was. I came up with that in 5th grade.
No way.
And refined the basic idea of the logo, and I think that one right there was just a really nice logo. And when we hit the point that I started actually looking into registering the name as a DBA, limited liability, something like that, I discovered there was another company already using the name White Tiger Entertainment. I didn't think their logo was as cool as mine, but so right now I don't really have a name for what I'm using. But, so this opening is a mixture of footage from the original guerrilla film and stuff that we shot fresh using you to replace Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of why it's in black and white, is because the original was shot on a digital 8mm camera. And so it wasn't that great. And so that's the original. That is me as the vampire dying. We tried to use enough to show that it was there, but not so much that it would look like the character I play later in the film. And you see, I believe that is Chelsea.
Yeah, there she is.
That is Chelsea. And then here we cut, and that is you. And notice how much clearer this footage is, even in black and white. We tried to grain it up a bit, but it's... And notice James has put on weight, and his goatee is fake now.
I like that transition of black and white to color in that same take. That was cool.
That was fun. I love that shot of you there, which we ended the trailer with.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was what I came up with when he said you left it open for a sequel. And I was thinking, how? I'm like, well, I guess she could catch the hammer. And suddenly I had an opening to the movie. Oh, this next bit, okay, so one of the big gets on this film really was getting my friend Tell to shoot it.
He's great.
Yeah, he was fantastic. I'm so sad I haven't been able to work with him more since. He's just so busy doing a lot of his own stuff. He did work with the piano guys for a while. Other than that,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I know he and his brother Huck are doing a bunch of videos of testing different things, experimenting with foods and stuff, and that is Tell there as the partner, police partner.
What? Come into my office.
The detective.
Did you know James
who's talking?
Mitchell?
That's Brandon,
Yes, he's one of my
That's
students.
one of those fun things.
more
He was not my
enthusiastic
first choice for that role.
Why, is he in some sort of trouble?
Not in an insulting or bad way.
We
Like
found his body
I
yesterday.
pictured him as an
He's
older
been missing for a few
character.
days, and best we've been able to figure, you were one of the
Brandon's
last people
older than
we've
me,
seen
but only like a
before
year.
today.
Like he was
Was there anything odd about his behavior?
he was a year ahead of me in high school. When I first wrote it, I actually pictured like my high school drama teacher playing that role, but I had no idea how to get him.
Who was his
And then I turned to another friend who's like, well, I'd love to do it, I just don't have time, which was kind of a recurring theme in casting this
We're
film.
not quite sure about the cause of death, but
And
he was pretty beat up.
by the time I turned to Brandon, he was the one I absolutely just wasn't going to take no for an
We were
answer.
wondering if
He
you could
wanted
shed
to do
some
it. It
light
was a
on
time thing, and so
Perhaps James had
like
some
all of his
enemies or
scenes got
problems
shot
we
in
should
like
know
2
about.
days, like months after. I think we'd finished everything with you by the time we got to him.
I wish I could be of more help.
It's that fun. You guys were never on set at the same time, were you?
No.
I really don't think I know anything that you need.
And that wonderful false mustache I'm wearing.
We'll stay in touch,
Oh, yeah.
Professor.
Oh, good night.
Where was this shot?
That was at my house. That was
Oh, okay.
my dad's sort of office / recording studio. My dad worked in the radio for many years, and when he retired, he tried to put in a little studio in the house, and he was going to do freelance commercial and stuff like that work. And that was the room we did that in because it looked like an office.
Mm-hmm. I love that shot behind my boots as I'm walking. That's such a cool shot.
We had a lot of fun with it. I'm pretty sure that was one of Tell's ideas. Was let's get the feet. And at first I'm like, boy, he's almost obsessed with feet, and pretty soon I was too. We got to get this. And okay, that is Jordan. That is the guy who said you left it open for a sequel.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so that's why I had to get him to play one of the victims.
Wherever you want.
Man, he fell for it.
Oh yeah. I love you had your own fangs coming into this.
I did. I totally did. I was ready.
That was good. I'm getting a little self-conscious about this now.
Overall, it was very similar.
Because
very similar.
I've watched some videos by
Loss of blood, the marks on the neck.
oh, I forget her real name. She calls herself the Maven of the Eventide. She does vampire reviews on YouTube.
Get a profile.
Oh, really? I've
So
never
really
heard of it.
fascinating. Yeah, she of that ilk of the many different reviewers. She is friends with Lindsay Ellis, who used to be the Nostalgia Chick. Did you ever watch her stuff?
No.
They're all great. I mean, I love all the stuff, and I don't know how I stumbled into her, but she does. This girl does the vampire. This woman does vampire reviews. So it's everything from books to movies, just anything with vampires. She loves it. Mm-hmm. And now I watch this, and I get really self-conscious about what am I actually saying with this vampire movie, especially this,
How nice to see you.
the
Professor,
sort of
did you hear what happened to James?
the
can't believe something like
seductress
that would happen to
vampire. Now I'm like, oh goodness, what did I do?
It is pretty shocking.
But
Didn't know
there
who
was
else to
interesting. There
talk
was
to about it. But then I
one of her
figured
reviews.
you
She
knew
talked
both of
about
us, and
something.
You always said in class if there was anything you could ever
an
do.
Oh, she
interest-
actually reviewed this.
No, she didn't review this.
Oh,
no.
oh, okay,
She
okay.
reviewed something else.
Just
One of her
from
reviews, she
Western
talked about a seductress vampire
I
who
understand.
did it as
Would you like to go
and
somewhere
the interesting
talk for a
take
little
of
while?
her not
Yes.
actually wanting to have sex with the men, but just using
But I
it to
can't
lure them
tonight.
into
Come
death.
tomorrow.
And I thought,
Sure.
oh, that's an
sure.
interesting take. That's what I always
Like
thought it
yours.
was.
Yeah.
And that's, I hope that's clear that that's what we were doing here. But,
Right.
but I don't know. I was still in my 20s back then. I was stupid. That's a lot of this B-roll I was able to film. Tell was very kind and allowed me to borrow his camera for a couple days and just go out at random times and get a lot of that B-roll myself.
Should we call in some experts, sir?
And that
I have one in mind.
this version that's on YouTube is not as crisp as the actual film originally was, which makes me a little sad. But
Son? Why?
It was not high def.
I'm gonna level with you.
It was
Looks
2008
like
we
James
shot
was
it.
killed by a serial killer.
Yeah.
2 more victims have shown
Tell's
up.
Tell with his camera to me was like
And it
just the
appears that
classic
killer's
example
signature to
of
mimic a vampire.
knowing how to use
I
the
was hoping you might
camera
be willing to act as a
still made his
consultant in this
footage
case.
look so
I
much
think your
better than
knowledge
all
would
those
help us on some of the
guys who were
details,
buying the brand new
so
high
we
def
can
cameras that were
capture
coming out as we were
trips up
doing
on
this.
Mm-hmm.
And I was seeing that footage, I'm like, I think Tell's looks better
I'd love to
because
help where
he
I can.
really knew how to use that camera for all it was worth.
Oh, for sure. Is there any way to upload them again
I'm
and
so
make them
sorry, I'm
crisper? Is that
late.
pretty much
I had to
impossible?
talk to the police
It's
again,
kind of impossible. I've got a CRISPR DVD that's like a first generation burning of it. I just my computer doesn't always want to recognize that there's anything on that DVD. If I can get the computer to recognize it, I can rip it off and hopefully get a crisper,
No, please tell me what
cleaner upload. But because Tell did all the editing, all I ever got of this was like
There's a very
one,
dangerous
maybe
person
two
out there.
first generation DVDs from him.
We all need to be careful.
And then in order to get copies to you and Brandon and everyone that was in it, I had to rip it off and put it into
Well,
iMovie,
It's
which
getting
I had
late,
at the time.
I have to teach class in the morning, so.
Okay, so I had to
be
stop.
going.
I live just a block over there.
This is our ADR moment where we had to redub the lines.
Oh, is it? I don't remember
Yes.
that.
Really
Yeah, we had to go back and like we didn't have like a booth or anything. We had literally go sit in the room where Tell was editing with the same little wireless mics that we used throughout this, that Tell borrowed from his work, and say the lines, and you nailed it. Like, I still can't tell that your line is dubbed. Mine is terrible, but part of it is just I was given this stammering delivery that was a lot of
I totally
Oh.
forgot about the ADR. And this shot is awesome. Coming
I
down from
love-
the moon.
I love that shot. That
Yeah.
was
So good.
my friend Casey, who plays the victim that you meet here, was the one who suggested the moon. Usually his suggestions on films were so over the top, I didn't usually listen to his suggestions because it's like, it doesn't fit what I'm doing. But when he just looked up and said, oh, you should get a close-up of the moon and pan down, I'm like, yeah, we should. And, and that blinking light on the bar, that, you know, we didn't do that. That was actually happening.
Oh yeah, the one and only.
Yep, the one and only, which is not the one and only in town anymore. But and I love you were underage at the time, weren't you?
I totally was.
And so you had to you were nervous stepping inside
I was
just
so
for that shot
nervous.
of coming out. But,
That's really cool shadow work. I like that.
yeah, that turned out really nicely. And that is my bedroom
Roommate
that
found
he
him this
is dead
morning.
in.
You got the
And he
bite
is
marks
not
on the
actually
neck where
there
the
in the same time that
The most puzzling
Brandon
thing
and I
about
are
it all
shooting
is the
this.
blood loss. All of the victims are missing a substantial amount of blood, but
Yeah.
not anywhere.
Perhaps the bodies are moved after they're dead.
How many
Right.
days did it take
Blood
to shoot
drained
this?
somewhere else.
All told,
What do you notice?
well, we had like 2 days with Brandon.
Wow.
How many days did we shoot with
Seems to be a
you?
real stickler.
I don't even remember. It's been
I
so
thi-
long.
I think we might have had like 3 or 4 days with you, and then like one or two days of just getting footage,
even know
just
this
me
stuff.
and Tell getting
Yeah.
footage.
Hmm.
But it was
Maybe he
spread
saved
out over a
blood
long
jumps
period
or
of time.
something. A lot of
Part of it was
keep some
because
sort of
we
souvenir from their kills.
we started filming
I don't know.
on October
Doesn't sound
30th.
very like me.
We did. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Right before
and
Halloween.
so yeah, right before Halloween, which was great in some ways, but it also meant that within a week or
It was
two,
not a man.
the town was turning into Christmas World.
Been feeling the
And I
same way. Some
didn't
of them
want that in
definitely
the
appear to
background of
have
the
been with
movie,
woman
so
when they died.
we had to go on hiatus
Yeah.
for like 2 months.
They were so beat up.
Which
James was
also
practically
brings
crushed.
up,
I don't
I
think a
mean,
woman could have done it.
if you look at my hair
I know.
over the course of this film, it's horrible.
The roommate's ready to tap.
because I had been kind of letting it grow for Halloween, for a Halloween costume, and it didn't ever quite work out the way I wanted it to. But then I realized I could not cut it once the movie started. And so the scenes early on with you, my hair's kind of longish, but it's okay. And by the time we got to shooting, like with Brandon, it's ridiculous. It was just so long. I hated it. This is my friend Cregan's house, or at least it was where he was living at the time.
Oh yeah, Cregan. I remember him.
Yeah.
He helped out with the film quite a bit, didn't he?
Yeah, well, I mean, Cregan and I have been friends for like 20 years now.
Wow.
Which is, yeah, that's the longest friendship I think I've ever been in. And I wish I could have used him more. He's incredible at like special effects, makeup and gory things, but I generally don't make that kind of movie, so I never really get to use his talents as much. But
well, maybe in the future.
well, yeah, hopefully, you know, we're both supporters of each other's work, so you know.
Yeah.
I played a serial killer in a film he made where he got to go nuts, and you know, I cut off somebody's head with garrote wire, and
whoa.
And he plays. Actually, that is Cregan there dying on the ground. This was the hardest one to. This is lit by headlights from a car, from Tell's car.
Wow.
But I do think that shot there looks pretty good with that lighting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
All right, you
have the car. There are times I feel like, wow, I wish some of these transitions were better, but that falls down to my writing, I think.
What did you see?
Again, I think we had two cars here, and so one of them is shining its headlight over, and that's how we're getting light on Brandon's face, as little as there is.
It was dark. Dressed in black. Quick.
So did this premiere the following year after we filmed it?
Yes, exactly 1 year later.
Wow.
At Horror Fest.
That's right.
Which is where the guerrilla competition would take place, and Adam Mast
fun.
hosted that. Yeah, exactly 1 year later, on October 30th again,
Let's get you home, get some sleep, and
premiered.
call you again.
I don't think you were there.
I was there. I remember watching
At the
myself
premiere?
on that screen.
At the premiere?
Oh yeah.
I
was there
don't
like
remember that. I know you were there when I submitted it to the West States Film Festival, and I couldn't be there because I was in the hospital having my gallbladder removed.
oh god. Oh wait a minute. The West States. That was a different one?
That was a different one, yeah. That was a couple years later. I think the very first premiere, I remember I don't think you could be there.
Maybe you're right then, because I remember seeing it in the West States Theater.
Yeah, this was at the Electric Theater.
Oh wait, no. I do remember the Electric Theater. I was there. I was like front row with my sister and her friend.
All right.
Trying not to cringe too much watching myself on the screen, you know.
I didn't see you there, but
oh, weird.
Okay. This here's a great example of working on the fly. I originally wrote this scene. There was another character that I was going to talk to, that was going to let me in, and all this stuff. And I just decided I didn't want to bring in another actor. I wanted to simplify it. And Cregan had this roll of caution tape in the back of his car, and I said, "We'll just do that. Works for me."
You just had some caution tape laying around.
Cregan said, and I just love that little sculpture that Cregan did years ago. I don't think he even has it anymore as a sound
He made
thing.
that?
Yeah, he sculpted that, and I was just thought it looked cool. And so I think in both films, this and the original, I found reasons to get a little shot of it somewhere. I'm kind of sorry. I mean, for all that that the Horror Fest premiere was, is it wasn't it. We didn't get to like do like a this is the premiere type of thing. It was just at Horror Fest. Oh, and we're going to show Trey's new movie. That.
Well, when we make the third one, we'll have a big premiere.
Oh yes. I started writing a third one, actually.
Really?
Yeah. It was when you were still living in St. George. So, I mean, that was... I wanted you to be like... It would have been like a cameo role for you, because, you do pretty definitively die at the end of this. Spoiler alert for people who are watching this with the commentary that haven't seen it before. And there's more of James's crepe hair goatee. I made that myself, and in that shot it was quite clearly coming off. But yeah, the third one was going to go in a very different direction. It was going to follow my character after this, and instead of a vampire, now I was going to take it into a werewolf. And when I said that, Craigan got really excited because he's like, you can't do a werewolf movie without some gore. And so he was excited to do stuff on it. And like the idea of what I would want you to do would have been like some cameo shots of sort of you haunting my character in his dreams type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it would have...
Or I could come back as a werewolf,
Yeah, well, it would have. I had some really good ideas, and I guess I just was never fully committed to it. And at one point, I just decided, why am I making a third movie that's a sequel to a sequel, and nobody's seen either of the other two? Especially because the werewolf, there was no doing that without money. This we did on an absolute shoestring. I remember showing it at a little film event, and a short film showed before this. And at the end of that, somebody asked the director, how much did you spend on this? And he said, about $500. And it didn't look as good as this. And I was just so hoping they would ask me the same question when this was over, when mine was over, because I can't...
Loomis is right.
We didn't keep track of what we spent on gas driving around, and I have no idea how much we spent on the tapes for the camera, because Tell didn't tell me that. But beyond that, I think there's a pretty good case that we spent about $50 making this movie.
Wow. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, and some of it was just because we lucked out on stuff. I mean, you already had fangs, you had, the dresses that worked for the character. I mean, some of it was like $5.99 for my false mustache that looks like garbage. I had to buy that necklace that you wear throughout the movie, which really completes the look, but was mostly there just because it was sort of a plot point in the first film that the vampire gave her that necklace. And so that was to carry it through. This is Craigan's grandparents' house. I love this shot, the lighting and everything. To me, just looks like something out of The Exorcist, kind of. I thought.
Such a great house too.
Yeah, great
all
house.
The decor.
And the decor, it was just so perfect. That's where we shot like almost all of the first film, and so we had to come back here for this. It looked really good.
Yeah, this room is so cool.
Yeah, and none of the first film was in this room, and I loved it because it was something new, but it looked terrific. It was, just so great. I love this. I love how you look there with how red that carpet looks behind you. That just. Mm-hmm. And I love how this worked. I remember you just had to duck down so that you didn't get into the mirror.
I forgot about that.
I remember doing that. Yeah.
That's why I want you here with me. Don't you want me?
Going in for the
noise
kill.
again. am I still making noise in this movie? Ugh.
Really getting into it.
You know, I wrote this, and I remember my sisters, after watching the trailer, said something about, you know, this sort of nervous laughter because of the sexual undertones of a vampire that was there. And I'm just like, oh, damn it, what have I put myself into? What have I? It's very easy to make me self-conscious about this type of stuff. I so badly wanted like an actual flashing light out that window, but
we can go where they won't find us.
we didn't have one. We didn't have.
Where we can sleep all day.
We were also actually upstairs, so I don't know how we would have gotten it outside that window.
I forgot about those shoes, but that was another great shoe shot.
Yeah. I still have the ace bandage with the piece of stick coming out of it that we rigged up for you to have the snake coming out.
That was great.
And I love how, rather than you actually falling down, you stepped out of the shot, we add a thudding sound and cut to you already on the floor.
Yeah.
Well, sort of like if you ever watched the Bela Lugosi Dracula, you never actually see him climbing out of the coffin. You see the coffin start to open, the camera pans up to the window, or you see the last light fading, and then it pans back, and he's standing next to the coffin. And I think it's largely just because there's no way to make it look cool climbing out of that box and look suave. Well, that shot when he was arresting me, you could see the lighting equipment in the background.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. It's funny. It's so fun playing dead. Oh man, it's great.
Yeah, well, I've seen you've used that shot as Halloween Facebook profile picture
I
before.
have.
I've seen,
It's a good one.
So,
Yeah. Good times.
good times indeed.
Still cannot believe it's been that long.
I know, that is, wow. Over 10 years. My goodness. I mean, how long has it been since you moved to where it is you are now?
To Seattle. I am here in Seattle. It's been like 7 years since I moved to Seattle.
Damn.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Seattle, but then I'm like, no, I don't. I might be wrong. I've got like, was it Seattle or was it Portland? I don't. It was somewhere in the Northwest.
Yep.
And I'm still stuck here in St. George.
Well, let's make some films once it's not a pandemic.
Well, yeah. That's it. I mean, this has been the nice thing about the pandemic. If not for the pandemic, I wouldn't have known about Zoom. I would have been doing this by myself.
Yeah, that's true. It's nice to connect after all this time.
It's nice to connect. Nice to hear. I feel like I did most of the talking, and I hope I didn't steamroller you.
No, you were just fine. I was engrossed in the film. I haven't seen it in so long.
Oh man, yeah. It's that great thing of any time you work on any kind of project that becomes that big is just, you spend all that time, and now you're looking back going, man, that like consumed my life for months.